Welcome to Setups, Payoffs, and Reversals, the podcast companion to the book I wrote. This is being released in advance of the book, and the book is on the films of Shane Black. It's a very niche book, but hopefully has some universal appeal. I'm having friends on to talk about their favorite Shane Black movies. With me today is friend, improviser, artist, movie fan.
Yeah.
Lehr Beidelschies.
All those things.
Hi, Lehr.
Hi, Jake. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
So when I put out a call for people interested in movies, I didn't get anybody for this film. And then you and I met up and you asked if anybody had requested it, and no one had. So we're doing The Last Boy Scout. And what's your relationship to this movie? The first question I usually ask is like, do you remember when you first saw it?
Yeah. I definitely remember the first time I saw it. It's very funny to be sort of the preamble to this was that this was like one of their favorite, or supposedly my favorite Shane Black movie, which I feel like I need to stress that it is not.
Okay.
But I do have a intimate relationship with this movie because this came out in the time, like, let's see, it was 91. So I was eight or nine, something like that. And this was around the era where me and my best friend, Jeremy Walling, I'll name drop him, sure.
Okay, great. Yeah,
we were like, obsessed with action movies. VHS was huge, so we would always go. I wasn't necessarily allowed to watch these movies, but I was watching them over at Jeremy's house when I would spend the night or whatever. And so he introduced me to Lethal Weapon and Terminator and, all the Die Hard movies, basically the big three, the Schwarzenegger, Stallones, and Willis's.
Yeah.
And, we would basically watch one of those action movies or two action movies. And then the next day we would end up, play acting out what we had seen the night before. And I remember specifically that Jeremy was always, like I was always the, I guess, voice of reason character if there was ever like a duo. And he always wanted to be either the Schwarzenegger, the Stallone, or the Willis, or I guess the Gibsons or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would be sort of the partner who would be, too old for this shit or whatever, which
at 9 or 10.
At 9 or 10, which I was always fine with, I didn't mind. I was very just excited to be playing with someone because I grew up, basically I didn't have any brothers or sisters growing up. So,
yeah.
But this was one of those movies. We had definitely a era where we watched all the Willis movies. Big Die Hard fan. We loved reenacting Die Hard. And this was one of those that was sort of like on the Die Hard list, I guess. It's very much like Die Hard. So this is one that I remember he actually owned for whatever reason. So we would watch this one over and over again, basically.
Okay.
So I had I kind of lived my life with the understanding that this was a great movie. This was if not equivalent to Die Hard, like one of the equivalent to maybe Die Hard 2 or something.
Yeah.
And, I probably hadn't seen it. I probably hadn't seen it since I was 12 when I revisited it in my late 20s. My girlfriend at the time was also very much into Die Hard. And we rewatched this, or I rewatched this with her because I was like, "Oh, you've never seen Last Boy Scout? It's great. It's right up there. It's one of the better ones."
Yeah.
And we watched it, and it was sort of an eye-opening experience for me because I was like, "Oh, this is nowhere near as good as Die Hard." it's not an easy watch, and it's problematic throughout. But when I was a kid, this was one that we definitely would rewatch over and over again. And I think it was because one of the reasons I like this so much is that this was one of the ones that I got to be Bruce Willis
Oh, okay.
in the scenario. So I really enjoyed this movie a lot because I think Jeremy was very much um, he liked the fact that he could be like a football player and an action star all in once. So he wanted to be the Damon Wayans character.
Right.
Um, and so it was a treat for me to be Bruce Willis.
To be a washed up uh
Private Eye.
private eye.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe this also like kicked off my love for like hard-boiled detective Private Eye because this was like one of those first action movies that really had like a private eye type character, I
Yeah.
think, or one that I remembered.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really funny. Yeah, I think when I watched it as a kid, I don't even know if I distinguished it from, I mean, I knew what Die Hard was, but
Sure.
you like the way that you're given information as a kid is like, or the way you take it in is not like, oh, this is a Tony Scott film with a Shane Black script. It was like, oh, I like Bruce Willis. I recognize him from Die Hard. This is just
Yeah.
him doing like another movie in that space. And
I
that
mean,
kind of is it.
yeah, he doesn't, there's not a whole lot of, or I guess there's not a whole lot of differentiating factors between his character in the Die Hard movies and his character in this movie. So it does kind of like blend together. I almost think that this movie could easily fit into the Die Hard
Oh,
like
yeah.
series. Like if maybe if like Die Hard 2 didn't exist, this may be like a good like route for that for those films to go, like sort of like a washed up cop, kind of famous for a thing he did in the past, kind of hates himself, has
Yeah.
problems with his wife and daughter and everything. So it's almost like that he's like assuming like another identity to get away from his like die hard past almost.
Yeah. There's it's very possible I thought it was in the same universe.
Yeah, it could easily be, I think.
Yeah. So, I love playing out the characters. When did you then like identify this is a Shane Black movie, or when did you like? Because what I was talking with Colin in the Lethal Weapon one is like again not dissimilar of like, oh, I liked all these movies, Commando,
Sure.
uh, Cobra or whatever. Um, but I don't know who wrote those, right? Like I don't know who
Right.
wrote most action movies, but I know who Shane Black is, and I think a lot of people who are fans of these movies tend to also know who wrote them, like uh,
Yeah. Yeah, for
and knew
sure.
maybe earlier than when you got in. I don't know. I guess that's my question. For me, it was like I knew. I ended up learning who he was at Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and then I went back because I learned it, and then IMDb was a thing, so you could go like, oh, what else did this guy do? And it was like, oh my god, he did all these movies that I already liked. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I think the IMDb definitely, I mean, I'm sure IMDb like released that information for me. I think I got into being like a movie guy around like 16 or so when
okay,
like there weren't a lot of like film people where I grew up, I guess. People weren't like known for being like, oh, you've seen a lot of movies, you know a lot about movies. I sort of like kind of adopted that identity because I grew up in kind of like a farming town, and I had a VCR since I can remember. My dad was like one of like an early adopter of
yeah,
like
yeah.
that
So was my mom.
technology.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like we always had like we would go to the video store and we would like basically rip the tapes onto like blank tapes, like
Yeah,
set
we
it
would do the
to
same thing.
yeah, set it to SLP so you could fit 3 movies on one
Yeah,
tape
yeah.
and wear it out like really quickly that way. But still, like I would just watch these movies over and over again, and basically anything I rented, I would tape. Even stuff that I didn't necessarily like I would tape it while I was watching it, kind of thing. And being like, well, I could tape over that later, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I kind of like I liked figuring out, who did what, and I'm not going to say that I like really landed on Shane. I probably landed on Shane Black when I was like in college, because my friends and I who were like my friends went to film school and I just hung out with them all the time. We would talk about these movies and then we'd be like, oh, who wrote that? Or, oh, who directed that? And was that Ridley Scott? No, that was Tony Scott. We would have these debates
Yeah.
and everything. And that was, I think, one of those moments where we would just be like, oh, so, Shane Black. Oh, wait, Shane Black. I think it was even like rewatching Predator. We saw that his name like in the credits, like as an actor, and we were like, that name sounds really familiar. And we looked him up and he was like, oh, he did this. The Lethal Weapon. He did that. Like it was kind of like mind blowing how many things that we had like grown up with, he had like had his hands on.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is one of those movies where when we would go through the list, I would be like, oh, and he did Last Boy Scout. Last Boy Scout's awesome. And almost all of my friends would be like, I've never seen Last Boy Scout. And I would be like, oh, no, it's great, man. You got to watch Last Boy Scout. But we never actually sat down and revisited it because we were either on to something else or it was like, oh, we'll get to it. We'll put it on the list kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or we were so drunk and we started it and then passed out or like got lost, did something else,
Why do you think this one gets what's interesting about his Shane Black's career that at least I've observed is that he's got this kind of like career where you would think his reputation would only grow, but it seems to sort of have stayed at this level where it's like, oh, some people know Last Boy Scout, but they don't know Long Kiss Goodnight, or people know Last Action Hero, and they don't know the other two, or they know he did Lethal Weapon, but they didn't know he did Last Boy Scout. Like, there's this weird thing where it's like he's almost like a Rick Rubin character in the sense of like, oh, he did that, and it's like, oh, what? But it never seems to like catch on in the same way that it's like, yeah, people who are into the movies or fans, and maybe I'm even contradicting myself, but it's like once you know it, but I feel like I keep running into people who are like, oh, I love Shane Black movies. And then it's like, have you seen this one? And it's like, oh, I didn't know he did that one. Like,
yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I feel like he, sort of has stuck, I mean, to a genre.
Yeah.
Almost his entire career. I mean, there are like little deviations here and there, and he's kind of shifted more into, comedy a little bit, but it's always been like action-esque movies, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, and this is totally just like just thinking about your question out loud, but like writers of action movies don't really get a ton of credit.
Yeah.
Like I just think that usually it's like if you think of an action movie, the first thing you're thinking of is the actor in it or the actors in it. And then you're like, if it's good or if it's like renowned or whatever, you kind of immediately go to who directed it.
Yeah.
And then what they did. And I just don't think that like, and I don't know whether that's, because these types of movies tend to go through like multiple rewrites or get passed through like multiple hands, but it's rare for somebody to like have their hand on the wheel the whole time,
Yeah.
I guess. And he just happens to be one of those guys that I think is that like that mix of he like has a great idea and like is can like create something from scratch and see it all the way through to the end, but he's also known for his punch ups and for like sprinkling his little Shane Blackness
Yeah.
over like everything, right? So he kind of is like, I can't think of another writer really who has that kind of career, because I think I, I don't know. I don't know that there are that many. I feel like a lot of writers, and again, this is just me like speaking out of my ass, but like I feel like a lot of writers, they tend to like have a baby, they write something, and then it gets taken away from them. And
Yeah.
then they get like a story by credit or something like that. And somebody like a Shane Black comes in and, you know, punches it up. But very few writers, I think, get to go through the whole process. I think he's very much a studio guy. Like
Yeah.
studios love him because he's not precious, or he doesn't seem to be precious with a lot of the things that he does. This movie included, just like doing the research on it. It's like he said this one like went through so many rewrites, but he was there the whole time and never got
Oh, okay.
like, you know, he
Yeah.
he he never seems to like just, yeah, like hold on tightly to something. He always
Yeah.
has like a loose grip. He's like, okay, what, you needed to have like a big set piece at the end? Cool. I'll throw in a big set piece at the end and I'll like have a little punchy dialogue to where people like it and the director will like it. And he seems to like let people weigh in, for good or bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what do you what do you like about his films, if you can like separate from like the nostalgia piece of it, and or this one in particular, if there's something that's like stands out to you about it? You kind of mentioned like the detective, the hard-boiled detective part of it, but is there anything?
I mean, they all, I think, have that like paperback airplane novel feel to them. Like they all have very punchy dialogue, and
Yeah.
like, some of it's like doesn't stand the test of time and is pretty cheesy and or like, horribly offensive.
Yeah, yeah.
He's very much a product of whatever era he's like writing in, I think. Which I know you and I talked about last week, but
Yeah.
like very few writers are, I think, clever enough to make a pun not sound stupid,
Yeah.
and he can do that. He can like thread that needle like really well to where like even some of the like horrible like back and forth lines between this, there's still like it has a flow to it.
Hmm.
It sounds like somebody like a smart ass, like you're having like a conversation with your smart ass friend who you're both like very comfortable with each other. It's not something that you would necessarily say to like a stranger or whatever, but like I think a lot of like paperback hard-boiled novels like have that element to
Yeah.
them, like the Elmore Leonard's, the whole Fletch series. I don't know if you've ever read any
Hmm.
of those Fletch books, but they're like just quippy, like back and forth dialogue. Like it's like a guy you want to have like a beer with,
Yeah.
because he's always like funny. He's always like a little smart alecky. And I think all of his movies, if even if they don't like, well, I think all of those movies kind of have a character who's like that, like a Riggs, or
Yeah.
basically any of his like leads have that kind of like flow to their dialogue, and they always have like a punchy joke that like fits in whatever they're doing at the time, and you're like, man, I'd like to hang out with that
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I don't know where I came across the term, but like they're very much like hangout movies. Like,
Yeah.
and admittedly, like watching them, especially with the lens of like writing about it, it's like, man, I don't understand most of the plots. Like,
Yeah.
the Last Boy Scout is like, okay, so they're trying to legalize football gambling, I think. and they've got a corrupt senator in their pocket. And Halle Berry's character had a tape of like a meeting that she was going to use for blackmail. But it's like, I had to watch that movie like 7 times and then watch it going, oh, I'm going to write about this to know what's happening. But it never takes away from my enjoyment of the film. Like,
Exactly.
it's a weird lane where I'm not, if there are plot holes, I'm not really paying attention because I don't know the plot well enough. But I know that
Right.
like Bruce Willis is a private eye who used to be a Secret Service agent, and Damon Wayans is a football player who like got canned because of his drug abuse problem. Like, and they're gonna stop the bad guys.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
a conspiracy.
yeah, there's like a conspiracy,
Something. Yeah.
and even now, and it's like, okay, his buddy sleeps with his wife and then gives him a job and then gets blown up. And I don't
Yeah.
really know why his buddy got blown up, but it seems like it was because he was going to meet with the woman. Like,
Yeah, dude. I honestly, when I said that I was going to do this, we were talking about this movie, and like I hadn't seen it in years, right? And we were trying to talk about it at that bar, and I was like, I couldn't really remember anything but the big set pieces. Like
yeah.
that first opening scene has stuck with me like my whole life.
Oh my God.
I think about that scene every time I like watch a football game almost, and I I went back home that night and I was like, oh, what happens in that movie? So I like looked it up on Wikipedia, and even like reading the Wikipedia entry, stone sober, I was like, I don't understand what is happening here. Like it was kind of all over the place. There was crisscrossing. I was like, I guess I'll have to watch the movie and it'll like sink in. Watch the movie, still was kind of confused as to what was happening.
Yeah.
And then I read the Wikipedia synopsis again before we did this, and I was like, okay, I think I have like a grasp on it, but in no way is it clear. I even like went down like a click hole and was like, well, this is convoluted. Let me read the synopsis for Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which I also haven't seen in a minute. And I
Yeah.
was like, what is going on in this movie exactly? And then I did Nice Guys because it seemed like kind of an equivalent too. And I was like, nice, this is all convoluted as well. It gets a little more streamlined as you go, but like, yeah, the plot isn't the point of this movie.
No.
It's all about the relationship between these two guys who kind of hate each other, but have a shared goal, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
It, so you rewatched it.
Yeah.
Anything that, yeah, I think that opening scene is like, and I talked about it where it was like, I feel like I watched that on Showtime or something. Like that was the
Sure.
first time I saw it. And it is so unbelievably dark. Uh, and you don't get to see Bruce Willis or Damon Wayans for like the first 15 or 20 minutes of that movie. Like,
Right.
it's like a football game is happening and there's like a phone call being made, and then a football player is like, yeah, it's like you got to score or
Or we're gonna kill you. Like you gotta like that was
yeah,
the thing. Like that scene in particular, in my memory of it, was always like, oh, the plot is wrapped around some sort of mind control. Like he picks up the phone and like somebody like plants something in his head and he's like, oh, now I gotta kill the opposing. Like I thought that was the goal, was that
right.
he was trying to kill these opposing players. And then rewatching it, it's like, no, you have to defeat this other team for gambling, I guess,
Yeah,
or we're going to kill you. So this guy takes PCP and then kills a bunch of people on the field and then kills himself. It's like, it's you had to inject PCP into that situation for that to make any kind of sense
right.
at all. And
And
it,
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, and it's very loosely connected to the plot
Yeah.
at all. Like it's his former, it's Damon Wayans' former team, and it like hints at the gambling thing. But if you like remove that scene, it doesn't really affect the movie at all, except
No.
it's like a great cold open. You've just never seen anything like it, kind of
Right.
thing.
And that's it. And that comes up a lot is like you can see this on the page of like I can't put this down. I don't know
Yeah.
what the guy's got a handgun on the football field like um and it's crazy and you don't really pay attention. Then it's like Bruce Willis is like passed out in his car and some kids throw a dead squirrel on him and you're just kind of like I don't know what's happening. I don't get this at all. Cars are blowing up like uh and yeah, Damon
Yeah,
Wayans is like, "Oh yeah.
you kind of watch the thing going like you're immediately invested in the movie because you're like, okay, I got to figure out what this conspiracy is that made this guy do this. And then you watch the movie and it's like, oh, it didn't have any relation to this hardly at all. It's like I think that was Milo, the like main henchman on the
Yeah,
phone or
yeah."
whatever. But that's it, you know.
And yeah, I still am like I kind of have the plot, but it's like there's C4 in it for some reason.
Before in every early 90s movie.
Yeah.
Like that's how you get
Plastic.
out of every
Yeah.
situation.
And I don't understand how C4 works at all, except I know that it's plastic explosive.
Yep. And you put two like rods that have wires on it and some sort of timer, and then that's all you need, really.
That's all you need. It makes no sense to me how like at all. But I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. Um
It's clearly all C4 from that era was just clay, right? That clay that you used in like art class. Like there's
yeah,
no it's like if you showed me like a thing and said this is actually what C4 looks like, I'd be like, no way, man. It's a big brick
it's a
of
big brick
like
of clay
Play-Doh. Yeah.
that is seemingly harmless
Yes. But
until
if you
it
run electricity through it, phew, buddy,
yeah.
watch out.
Uh it's very fun. Yeah, yeah, anything else that you were like it I think it is his angriest movie. Like it is
Yeah, without a doubt. There's just everybody's pissed off at everybody else. Like there's not a ton of like redeeming value, I think, to any of the characters, even though the main character is like his whole thing is that he's the last Boy Scout. He's the last like stand-up guy,
yeah.
but he still acts like an asshole the whole time. Like, and it's
Everybody
like
hates him.
everybody hates him. He hates himself. He wonders when he when they threw that dead squirrel on him, and he like wakes up and his partner calls him. He's like, "I think I fucked a squirrel to death." It's like, oh god, I hate this guy like
Yeah.
immediately.
Uh yeah, he's so unlikable throughout
Yeah,
the whole thing. Um but it's Bruce Willis, so it's like he pulls it off.
pulls it
Like
off. That's Bruce.
um yeah, I think I would be curious um well, one piece of like trivia that came up for me is like, he wrote the sequel to Lethal Weapon 2. It was too dark. They wanted to lighten it up, so he walked away.
Oh,
And so he gets a story by credit in Lethal Weapon 2, but they like changed it and he was like my script for Lethal Weapon 2 was one of the best things I wrote. It was called Play Dirty, which is then the most recent movie he put out. Um and then he wrote The Last Boy Scout, and the title for that was originally Die Hard.
right,
But Joel Silver was like, actually, can I use this for something else?
right.
Uh, so, but you get the sense that he was like, you guys, like, uh, you took away my lethal weapon and you didn't let me make it dark. So I'm going to write this. I'm going to write my dark movie. And then Tony Scott gets his hands on it. And Tony Scott's stuff is like, I mean, Top Gun is not dark, but Tony Scott is like
Is dark.
dark. It's like
Yeah,
this movie takes place in LA, and it feels like the least LA. It feels like it takes place in some dystopian version of Los Angeles.
Yeah, like a Demolition Man,
Yeah,
Los
I was going to say
Angeles. Like,
Demolition
but the
Man. Yeah.
underground Demolition Man. Yeah, yeah.
There's like, he goes to the strip club, and this was like not, this was a bit of a trend, I feel like, in the late 80s and 90s, where it's like strip club, there was like chicken wire around the stage.
Yeah.
And it's like, how awful were things where they were like, we got to put up chicken wire? And it's like, and I've been to a strip club. It's like, I've never been to one that even remotely, like, if anything, they're always like, this is classy.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's in the alley with that guy, and he's like telling yo mama jokes. And it's like, this feels like, yeah, a Demolition Man, like some weird dystopian reality. And then apparently, like, Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans didn't get along. So you get like all of those things on top of each other, and it's like, it still feels like a Shane Black movie, because everybody is, as much as they all suck, you do like enjoy hanging out with them. Like, they're in the, he's like, how much did those jeans cost or whatever? And he's like, $400 or whatever. And he's like, those should have a TV. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. That's one of my favorite lines in the whole thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I like the bit of trivia that I read about like him writing this movie, which I think, like, because I thought the exact same way. Like, this is like somebody, whoever wrote this, and when he wrote this, he was clearly going through something. And like the bit of trivia that I found is that I didn't see the Lethal Weapon 2 part, but he said that his career was kind of stalling out, and he had just broken up with his like long-term girlfriend, and he like took like 2 years out and basically just smoked cigarettes and like hung out and at like in LA,
Yeah.
and just did nothing. And then like this movie like brought him back to like the keyboard or whatever.
Wow.
And he was like, this is like the most therapeutic and like fun I've had like writing or whatever. And it just, as somebody who has gone through like a bad breakup and, went through the, my friends called it my like private eye era, because I was literally like sitting in a very small studio apartment post divorce, like just smoking cigarettes and like drinking whiskey and stuff like that. Um, it it totally reeks of somebody who like just hates life and like is, and like this movie, I mean, most of his early stuff is not kind to women. I'm sure you've gone over
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
quite a bit. And this movie like reeks of that. But it also, there is an element of like Bruce Willis's character, as much as he's like, the sky is blue, water's wet, and women have secrets. Like, he still like kind of acknowledges his role in their relationship, as does Damon Wayans, who like, as much as he's like, cheating on Halle Berry and like being just a general asshole, like he's down on himself. And you can kind of feel Shane Black like kind of sorting through his part in whatever uh relationship woes he was going through at the time. So as soon as I read that he was like just going through a really bad breakup, I was like, yeah, this script feels like somebody's like working some of that shit like out.
Yeah. I think that's I can sort of like lionize him too easily, but it's like, I think that's why his films tend to stand apart from other movies a little bit, is it's like, yeah, this is a very mean, violent action movie. Um, but there is something in it that is like, that feels like more substantive. It's like,
Yeah.
I love Roadhouse. I think Roadhouse might be a more fun movie than this, but you can't ever really watch Roadhouse and go, This guy feels like he was going through a thing. It's like
Yeah.
they gave the guy a doctorate in philosophy and then
Yes.
made him a famous bouncer. And it's like right there, it's like, oh, this is fun, but it is all bullshit. And this movie has a little bit of like, yeah, this is a guy who wrote a movie about two dickheads, but there's an element of like, uh, I fucked up. Like I've done a shitty job. And, you know, writing about it, I was like, he's he is the screenwriter that most people associate with action movies. And yet he got Schwarzenegger for Last Action Hero, but that was a rewrite that he did. And other than Bruce Willis, he never really like grabbed there. No Stallone, no Kurt Russell, uh,
No.
none of these. No Van Damme, no Seagal, like guys you think would be like, let me at a Shane Black script.
Yeah.
But his heroes aren't that likable. Like they're always like there's this idea of a flawed hero, but his are like these guys are pretty pathetic.
Yeah.
They manage to pull it off usually. And the Last Boy Scout, it's like Willis's character is like a badass. He's like, if you touch me again, I'll kill you. And
Yeah.
he likes, and he's like, at the end of this, I'm going to do a jig. Like he's kind of, he's got skills, but at the end of the movie, nobody likes him. Like he's not he saves the day, but it's not like that guy is awesome.
Yeah,
What?
but I think I think they follow though, with the exception of, well, I don't know. Like one of the things that makes Die Hard stand out amongst all the rest, and even like Lethal Weapon to a certain extent, is that all of these characters, those characters are flawed. And that's what like everybody talks about those movies, is that they're not like the Stallones who or the Schwarzeneggers who are just like ripped supermen who can
Yeah,
do anything. Um, and face all these obstacles that they just like plow through or like shoot through or whatever. Like Riggs from Lethal Weapon, it has like mental illness issues,
yeah,
and Willis in Die Hard, he's like dealing with his own like kind of toxic masculinity in like certain ways. But they're still like good guys. They're almost like good guys that something like bad happens
mm-hmm.
to a certain degree. And these characters, I think they're bad guys who know that they're bad and like wish that they don't even like pretend that they're like good guys, which I think it makes them a little bit endearing. And they like hate themselves too, which I think allows you to like them a little more. It's like, yeah, I hate this guy, but he hates himself too. So he knows that he's a piece of shit, and
Yeah,
he's still like standing up after getting his ass kicked and like trudging through because he knows that he's the only one who is going to do this.
yeah. Um, yeah, he's the last Boy Scout.
He is the
Uh,
last Boy Scout.
yeah. Anything you like clocked watching it this recent time, or like for good or ill, or
I mean, it's hard for me to like revisit a lot of these movies, uh, as I've become an enlightened, you know, cis white male,
yeah, yeah,
or for as much as I can be or whatever. Like it's hard to rewatch these movies and be like, you really didn't need to say the F word in
yeah,
there. You like these women are like literally just props, or like, they're going to get fridged and then you're just going to have to deal with the aftermath, but they're not like living, breathing characters with agency or anything like
yeah,
that. So, I mean, I kind of knew that going in after touting it to my ex-girlfriend and then watching her watch this movie and just going, oh, this is not something that I should have like said, oh, this is a great film from the 90s or whatever. But like it's hard not to like, some like the TV line with the pants, it's hard not to like smile at a lot of that stuff. But yeah, it's definitely like a movie that you have to, couch and like, yeah, you're gonna hear some awful shit. There's not a lot of redeeming value to it. But if you just literally go in like a roller coaster ride, it's like you're not gonna learn anything from a roller coaster ride. You're not gonna like get a moral out of it. You're just gonna have like, an adrenaline rush. And like you just have to be like okay with that and kind of see it as a product of its time. And as long as you don't endorse any of this bullshit, like I feel like, you know, it would be hard to watch this movie without the nostalgic factor for
Sure.
sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot to it though. It's very dense in terms of the jokes. There's stuff in there that I noticed for the first time. As somebody from Ohio, this has one of the better like anti-Cleveland lines, which I feel like is like a running thing through like 80s and 90s movies, is that everybody fucking hates Cleveland. Everybody thinks everybody
Wait,
shits on it.
what's the anti-Cleveland line?
It's like it's at the very beginning, like when because the Los Angeles Stallions are playing the Cleveland I can't even remember what the Cleveland, some fake Cleveland, like the Cleveland Cats or the Cleveland Dogs or something like that.
Yeah.
And like they're doing like a montage and they cut to the coach on the LA side just going, I fucking hate Cleveland. And that's all it is. And I just like immediately started texting my friends and being like, found another Cleveland line, last Boy Scout, first 10 minutes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you kind of like touched on something that's been on my mind, like writing about this of like, I don't want to excuse any of the stuff, but I also am like, it feels unfair slightly to be too critical of a thing that wasn't being uh that I didn't know any better about. I didn't know any better when I watched it, and I have to sort of go like, yeah, I don't. It's like this is an imperfect movie, and yeah, imperfect is generous, but it's like a lot of his writing does that earlier, and I do think that there is there's like progress being made, like there's an evolution, and I don't think that it's like, oh, congratulations to the like progressive feminist action writer Shane Black. But I also think that
Yeah.
like, as you were talking about it, it's like there's something about being with a writer for this long where you can kind of see somebody who is being thoughtful about it in a way that doesn't feel performative, that it's like, yeah, this was a cathartic experience for him personally to write this movie. Um, the guys aren't cops. Like Lethal Weapon is the only movie where he writes cops. And Lethal Weapon is like, yeah, you could be like, oh, this is propaganda, and it's like, and I like Bad Boys. I think Bad Boys is awesome.
Sure.
But it's two cops. And Die Hard, it's like he's a cop in every single one of those, and he is doing crazy shit. And even so, and it's like that doesn't excuse the stuff, but there's this slight acknowledgement that it's like these are losers,
Yeah.
and they're not like, and um, and it's just been an interesting like. I don't know if reckoning is the right word, but just a reflection on it and wondering like, oh, if I wrote about them 10 years from now or 10 years earlier, like what my uh, point of view or opinion of these movies would be. And obviously, like I hold them like very close to me. The something that I've been writing about is like I saw them all at these pivotal points in my life, and I don't think it's not like uh destiny, but it's also not coincidence. It's like I was 10 or 12 years old, and this is a Bruce Willis movie where he's wisecracking, and a Damon Wayans movie where he's wisecracking, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted at that
Yeah.
age. And they do slow motion gunfights, and his daughter hides a gun in the little puppet, and it's like, and they throw those shotgun shells in the fire, and Damon Wayans rides a horse and throws a football. Like it is like, yeah, if I made a movie at 13, that's exactly what it would be.
For
Uh,
sure.
and I love that about it. And I also am like, this movie is so like stupid. But then I watch a movie like Bulletproof, which I wanted to like so bad.
Oh, me too, man.
I was like a rated R action movie with Damon Wayans and Adam Sandler, and
Hmm.
that movie is terrible.
Yeah. There's
Uh,
one good line in that movie that has stuck with me to my entire life. Is when I don't know if you remember Adam Sandler's watching porn and he's like, you know how I know this is from the 70s? His dick had sideburns. And I
yes,
was like, that is the best line. But yeah, that movie, I loved Damon Wayans when I was this like when this movie came out, it was like just blew my mind. I loved In Living Color. I loved Blank Man
yeah.
and uh, basically any Major Pain, anything that he
Oh,
came out. And as soon as I saw like him and Adam Sandler, I was like, this is gonna be the best movie ever. But it was like right at that age where I was like, no, I'm actually judging this. Like I'm looking for something and this is not it at all, you know?
yeah. I feel the same way, and so there's a little part of me that's like, these movies have not. There's also movies that I liked that I'm like, that's bad. Uh,
Yeah.
And obviously, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't still like these movies. But I think part of talking to people about it and writing about it is trying to sort of go like, why do I feel like this is slightly different? Like, why would I? I could see writing about, and I probably have Tango and Cash, but
Mhm.
not for any other reason than it's like the act of writing about something so stupid,
Yeah.
and talking with people about these movies is like, yeah, they suffer from all the problems all the other movies do, but there's a little bit of an element to it, and I think it was what you were talking about like the paperback novel of it, the like pulpiness of it, like it's um they're like uh smart dumb action movies or whatever that kind of thing is.
I also like as much as I there's a lot of problems in its portrayal of women in particular, and it like has a lot of homophobia that like completely like missed me for a long time, and I'm
Yeah,
just like picking it up now because it's not like direct homophobia. It's like that kind of like, oh, maybe I am gay kind of
yeah,
thing, and it's just like it's not directly like gay people suck. It's more like there's no way I could be gay. Wouldn't that be hilarious if I was gay
right.
kind of thing. And all that shit sucks and it like kind of prevents you from recommending this to anybody who has never seen it before or talking about it even to anybody who hasn't seen it before and like has like memories about it. But one thing I did pick up on rewatching it that I'm like, that is actually a good thing to inject into this genre, especially for a teenage boy. And I remember specifically like it is very anti-violence toward women.
Yeah,
They're both characters like have a scene where they have to like prevent some dumb asshole from like hurting a woman.
yeah,
Um, and like there's definitely something to be said about like, yes, the woman is just there as a plot device, as something to like, bolster these men who are kind of awful in other ways. But like when you're a teenage boy and you're watching VHS after VHS of like really bad action movie that doesn't have any redeeming value in it, like most of the like Billy Blanks was the guy who was in that first like football scene. He plays the football
Oh yeah,
player,
yeah,
and he has a lot of like I watched a lot of action movies with him when I was a kid too, and there's just a lot of bad shit that he is in that is like non-redeemable whatsoever.
yeah,
But like when Damon Wayans like prevents that guy from like sexually assaulting or stops that sexual assault in the first like at that party or whatever, and then Bruce Willis does the same thing in like the flashback with the senator or whatever. Like uh, in that era, young teenage boys needed to see that as something to be like, that's something you need to do. You need to stand up for like, and it doesn't need to be a woman necessarily, but like there's so much violence that's directed toward women in these movies that just goes un like mentioned or sort of
yeah,
like glossed over as like, that's tits and whatever, but like this movie like made a specific statement about it. And I was like, no, this is wrong. And this like main character is going to stop it. And you should be like this main character, you know?
yeah.
So
I mean, I've watched some like 70s movies that are like detective movies or whatever, and it's like with like Paul Newman, like
yeah,
the Drowning Pool or Harper or different kinds of
yes. I
movies
was
where it's
just
like
thinking about Harper. Yeah.
they'll just like smack a woman in the face
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my God. Uh
Yeah.
and then it's like, yeah, I guess if you watch The Last Boy Scout, you'd be like, look at this progressive film. And it's like the hope is that we will always do that.
yeah.
That I'll watch a movie that I think is great right now, and then in 10 years go like, that's not great. Uh, not because I want to always be living in a time where there's marginalization or whatever, but living in a time where it's like we will get better about this stuff. Like, and it's like, yeah, you could not do movies about this or whatever, but I think like tell stories and learn from those stories and then tell new stories. And I think that that's, uh, uh I don't know. I'm so fond of these movies, and in part of what you were talking about, where it's like, even this one that feels mean and nasty, it's like it doesn't have. I go like I cringe a little bit, or I go like, "Ugh, geez, I don't remember that."
Yeah.
God, that like didn't. That makes me uncomfortable, or whatever it is. But they don't have the same feeling as like there were other movies I would watch during that time period that was like, this feels awful. Like my brain couldn't put it into words, but it's like, this feels worse. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. I think if Roadhouse was done any more sincerely or dramatic, you'd be like, that movie is unwatchable. Like
Hmm.
every woman in that is a prop. And it's like, well, every man in that movie is a prop. Like they're just kind of like dolls like smashing together or whatever.
Yeah.
I keep shitting on Roadhouse, which I think is a fun movie, but there are so many that I was like, I was looking for movies like this and I couldn't find movies like this. And Last Boy Scout is one that, yeah, I remember it being dark and unfun. Then I found it again in college and was like, man, this movie kicks ass. And then I watched it again a few years later and was like, I don't know if it kicks that much ass.
Yeah, totally.
But like, there are lines. I think Milo is a great villain. Like, he's so skeezy and weird.
Smarmy, yeah.
And when he like that line when the cop's like, is there a problem here? And he's like, yeah, there's too many bullets in this gun or whatever, and shoots the cop. It's like, that fucking rules. That's a great line. And it's just like, yeah, it it like brought paperbacks to life in a way that felt like I didn't even read uh, like detective novels or whatever, but it was like this feels just a shade more dense or uh thoughtful might not be the right word, but like it's just got a hint more substance than whatever else was out around that time.
Yeah, and in a sea of movies that completely lack substance and are just giving like little boys like mental issues, because they have to be, if they're not, 6'7" with like giant like muscles, like punching people for a living, then, you're not worthy of being a man. Like at least this is like, it shows you the darker side of kind of like acting like that. And every as I'm talking about it like this and like kind of defending it, you are kind of like going, I'm not defending it. I'm not saying that this is like the best movie in the world, but in context, I think it does stand out amongst the garbage that we all like ingested. And like I as a 42-year-old man am still like sorting through shit that I ingested during the 80s and 90s that, I like to think that I'm more enlightened than a lot of people that I necessarily grew up with, but at the same time, it's still woven within the fabric is
Yeah.
like these movies. And like, whether I like it or not, there's still like parts of me that's like, oh, I want to see a high body count, or
Yeah,
like I want
yeah.
to, like I kind of want like somebody to punch somebody and like stand up for what's right and true in America and all that shit. It's like uh, this at least it's dark, but it kind of needs to be dark in these ways.
Yeah. I think and then we'll do final thoughts on anything, but it's like it feels the opposite of performative and it feels effortful in a way that's like
Yes,
there are
good way
movies
to put
that
it.
I have seen recently or whatever that are like perfectly inoffensive. And I'm not saying you have to have one or the other or whatever, but it's like sometimes I watch a movie and I'm like Jurassic Park Rebirth or whatever. I was like, I'm a little pissed off. Like, it's
Yeah,
like this feels like you're not taking me seriously. You'd like nobody fucking yeah, it was shot on film, but it's like what a load of shit this is.
yeah. What a
And it's
waste of
like
film that is.
yeah, and it's like this movie. I talk about it sometimes of like he gives so much character to like henchmen who are in for one scene or whatever, and it's like I've heard him in interviews just be like, if the scene isn't interesting, why have it in there? And if I have to do exposition, I never want it to just feel like exposition. Like, and then in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, when he has to give exposition, he breaks the fourth wall and goes like, "Wasn't that scene shitty?" Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
why would we be talking about that? And it's like, oh, he couldn't. He's like poking fun at the idea, but like this movie has those henchmen who are like the thesaurus henchmen who get blown up by the C4 or whatever. And
yeah.
it's like it doesn't matter and it didn't reframe the way I think about the value of human life, but it is like oh, that's a fully formed character that he introduced for one scene who got blown up and who gives a shit. But it just feels a little bit more rich in a way that's like yeah, cool, this is a person, this is a character, like even if at the very least from a creative standpoint I do think the way in which it impacted me a little bit was like yeah, this feels like if you're going to tell a story everybody should have a role. And it's like and then yeah, likewise the women get no roles, they're objectified, and that is its own sort of problem in those types of movies. And also being able to recognize that as like yeah, that's not great. But I think like yeah, it didn't present like the only way to be a hero is to look good, say cool things, always know the right thing. that it's like you could be a total fuck up and have a moment of redemption, or
Yes.
and it and I don't think he was putting out that messaging. But if I'm going to read into like that was a bit homophobic or misogynistic, it's also I guess I'm making the choice to sort of go like, and I think making the effort to say like doing one good thing doesn't make you a good person. But being a piece of shit doesn't make it impossible for you to sort of say like, I got to do the right thing, or like, and that gray area that you could absolutely write and craft without any of that problematic stuff. But I don't think I don't think he had a lens for that. I think like I didn't, like I said, like we're all at a place, and I'm sure if anybody involved in that movie went back and watched it, they would go like, yeah, I don't feel great about all the stuff that's in there or choices I made. But I do like the idea that it's like, I think Under Siege is fine, but I would never ever have any interest in examining Under Siege because there's nothing to
Yeah.
examine there.
Right.
It's like he's a cook. He's more than a cook. He can't be stopped. Like, and it's a simpler plot. And they make the woman a badass by the end, and then they fall in love, and it's like this is all worse, in my opinion. It's all way worse
Well,
for
those
shaping
movies,
somebody's
yeah,
yeah.
and those movies like miss like because they're all that was the first one that was like Die Hard on a blank,
Yeah.
right? And like those movies, it's like they're all like, well, it's just it needs to be Die Hard on a blank. It like, but you miss the key element of that character is that the character was complicated.
Yeah.
He wasn't like a perfect husband who was trying to save his wife. They could have easily wrote that movie like that, and then nobody would remember it. Like
Yeah.
nobody would give a shit. And they made those movies immediately after that. But this movie stands out from the fray. Well, A, because it's not Die Hard on a blank, but it's just sort of shuffling around the Anna part. But like this really honed in on this character is complicated. These characters, they ultimately have dreams and hopes that failed, and like they're dealing with these things, that these decisions that they made in the past, and they don't necessarily subscribe to them anymore. And you just don't see that in those other movies that we're talking about. There's no reason to like dig into those other movies because they're very much like cardboard cutouts of the thing that you actually like, the thing that actually has three dimensions to it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I know we're going over, but it's like I love Predator.
Yeah.
Predator is an excellent made action movie, but it isn't saying anything.
No. No, it's
like
not.
it cast big, muscular, awesome people, and then had them, and it defined them all by what their weapon was, and then it murdered all of them. And Dutch learns nothing. Like,
Well, I think it does, and not to keep going over, but I do defend Predator in that it took all of these guys who their whole thing is being strong and like blowing away whatever's in front of them in the most like ridiculous way possible. Like they are, if you saw those guys coming at you in a helicopter, you would be like, there's no fucking way
yeah,
that I would ever stand a chance against these guys just because it's brawn over brains, right? But at the end of that movie, it's like all those guys get fucking mowed down. And the only way to defeat this thing is by, Rube Goldberging the jungle. So like you have to like kind of like use your brain and not your muscles. Like,
yeah,
which it's not, the most in-depth story in the world. And you're right. I don't think Dutch like walked away going, I think I'll teach college now or anything. But it's still like in the context of that story, I think that's the lesson there is that, there's always going to be something that is bigger than you. And if you want to like survive, you have to like use something other than your might or
I love
whatever.
that.
Yeah.
Uh, I love that, and I like it in part just because it's like I don't get to do this over again. I watch the movies I watched, and I can go like they were all trash and not look at them again, or I can go like, well, maybe it would be a good exercise, or there's value in sort of going like, all right, is there anything else I can get out of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and to your point, almost of like, yeah, this is an action movie, people get blown away, or I can think about it a little bit and go like, well, maybe it's this. Maybe this is the thing. And it's like nobody was going for that when they made it. And it's like, I know, but it's like if
But
I
you could
can stitch together this weird sort of thesis on it, it's like that feels like it's not nothing.
there has to be a reason that a movie like Predator endures, I think,
Yeah.
or like even this movie. Like there's a reason that this sticks in our brain, and I like to have a little more faith in myself and maybe humanity and like whatever. But like you know, film criticism is a thing for a reason, and people revisit films all the time. And I think that a lot of the films that beg to be reconsidered are the ones that for whatever reason have a staying power, and you kind of need to like go, why is this still around, why is this still stuck in my head, why did I care about this so much? And I think as the person that I've become and my friends, you know, we always talk about like what is the redeeming quality of
Yeah.
this movie. Because it has to be there or else it would have lived with all the other Billy Blanks movies. You
Right.
know, like
Yeah. I'm gonna say this here so that I hopefully remember when I get to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but that movie came out the same year as Crash, which won I believe, won the Academy Award for Best
best
Screenplay.
best
Oh,
screenplay. Yeah.
Best Picture.
I think it was best picture. Well,
Yeah,
maybe it was best screenplay.
it was at least nominated for Best Screenplay, but I think
Yeah.
you're right. I think it won Best Picture. Um, and Shane Black is not in the Academy
Right.
because they said come back when you have more like a longer resume, even though he'd written 5 movies, but they were all action movies. And it's like if you look back on 2006 or whatever, and it's like the entire world was performatively being like, Crash is a thoughtful piece on race and whatever. And it's like, what a load of bullshit. It's like I will take my Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which has its problematic stuff, but it's like at least it wasn't pretending to be something it wasn't.
Yes.
And I think that his movies continually do that of like this is exactly the story that he wants to tell, problems and all. And in 10 years, if it still holds on and you can go like, I kind of like this about it, even if that didn't feel like the intention, it, it's it has value for me. Obviously, that's why we're doing all this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for
Uh,
doing this, by the way, because
hey,
it did make me, you know, I love this movie, and when I saw you post about this, I was like, I wonder if anybody's going to do Last Boy Scout. And then I wasn't even going to pitch it as me, but we were talking about it, and I just kind of like just threw it out there and dropped it in the ether, and you were like, no, please do Last Boy Scout. Nobody wants to touch this movie. And
uh,
like it kind
um,
of made me go, yeah, okay, I'll take the reins on this one because I unabashedly loved this as a kid.
yeah.
So
And thank you for doing it.
yeah,
There's nothing more valuable to me than that I value more than just getting to like talk about something that I like with someone I like about it. Like,
same.
I was talking with a friend about like, you know, our creating content and people being like, what I want to write this and sell it or whatever. And it's like the thing you love the most, you can't put a price on. And it's like, yeah, I if somebody bought this podcast for $1 million, I'd be like, you got it for a steal, because this is my favorite thing to do. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, buddy.
Anything you want to plug?
No, not really. You mentioned I do a lot of improv, but I feel weird about plugging improv or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'm a part of Everything is Terrible. If you guys haven't heard of
Oh,
Everything is
yeah.
Terrible, check out some of our feature films, or the
Yeah.
website is still kicking occasionally. You don't have to give any money to the Zuckerbergs or anything like that to watch our old stuff, but
Hell yeah.
like, we are a group of people who grew up on quote unquote bad cinema like this. So if you like bad stuff, or just like 80s 90s stuff, it's not necessarily member berries per se, but we try to like find a redeeming value in trash too. So
I love that. Yeah,
yeah.
check out Everything is Terrible. And if you're in Los Angeles, check out STEM Kids.
Yes, I'm sorry, STEM kids.
Lehr's improv team.
Please check out my improv team, which
I hope
Jake,
they listen all the way through and you
they
get
will
roasted
not.
for it.
They will not. They'll probably scan to the end to make sure that I said something about them. But yeah, Jake raised us from a baby workshop. So
And I could not be more proud. Thank you, Lehr. I appreciate
thank you,
it.
Jake.
All right. I'll see you, buddy.
See you, bud.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. That wraps up episode 2, The Last Boy Scout, with my buddy Lehr. Yeah, dark film, but lots of fun. I should have recorded an outro that I could just plug in at the end, but I didn't. And so now this is taking a little bit longer. Thanks for listening. Up next, we're going to have The Long Kiss Goodnight with a couple of friends. And again, if you enjoy this podcast, tell a friend. And if you really enjoy it, or you just like the films of Shane Black, or you happen to enjoy my writing, pre-order the book. You can get it now at my website, weimprov.org, where you can sign up for improv workshops and screenwriting classes if that interests you. Or if not, just check out the book. It's under the merch page, or weimprov.org/store-1-2/P/Shane Black book. It'll be out this this December, maybe this January, but it's all done. I'm just finalizing the formatting. Thanks for listening. We'll see you at the next one. Bye.